Today, I'm gonna do a video dedicated to Daredevil. Why I think Daredevil is way too overrated. I think Daredevil is easily the most overrated show, the most overrated superhero show, because I think I don't really enjoy Daredevil. I will plan to do a rant review on it. Now, I have not seen the full show because I pretty much just stopped watching it. I will, however, just talk about season 2. There are a few things I did like about Daredevil. Now, yes, the fight scenes look good. They look beautiful. They look perfect. However, that's the fight choreography. Choreography, however you pronounce it. That is completely different than the way the character actually fights. For instances, when you actually see Daredevil fighting, he looks stupid fighting when he grabs the guys and just beats him up with his fist like it's a boxing fight. It's so disrespectful to the character in the comics because the comics, he doesn't fight like that. Maybe in the earlier days he did, but that's like in the earlier years. That's like when comics weren't a thing at the time. Now they are. Nowadays, he fights like Spider-Man does in the comics, where he uses his agility and flips around the room. It makes sense, and that's the type of fights I think we should be getting on Daredevil. Not the whole where he's just gonna box him. Disrespectful to the character. The next thing I wanted to talk about was the lack of character development. I've only watched season 2, but I want to talk about that Punisher trial episode and how it really is stupid. It's one of the stupidest moments ever. Now, Matt Murdock in the comics is a very smart lawyer. He knows what he's doing, he knows what he's given. All that stuff, it makes sense. But in this show, my guy, he's a pretty bad lawyer. In fact, I don't even know if he even. I think he should lose his job in this show. That's how bad of a lawyer he is. Mainly because when you're on a trial and and the person you're defending, your defendant goes on trial. The thing is, you're actually supposed to say what you're given. You're never supposed to go off, oh yeah, I'm just going to go off vigilante land because I think that's far more interesting than what I'm actually given. That is actually disrespectful to Daredevil in the comics because Daredevil doesn't do that. Yes, it's okay if he does mention about being a vigilante, but he can't say that if that is what he was. If that is, I don't know what I'm saying. He can only say about vigilantism if he was actually given the rights to say that by his other friends or partners or allies. If he was given, you can say about this vigilante thing. That's fine if he was actually given the material, but he wasn't. Nelson clearly stated about Frank's family. And clearly Matt Murdock did not care about any of that. He cared more about this Elektra stuff where he knew that was not important. It disrespects the character of Elektra in the comics. In the comics, she's this really cool assassin. And I'll get to Elektra in a bit. Anyways, Daredevil just knows later is like, I actually read a comment where it's like Daredevil was like, I gave you all the good stuff and that's how you treat it. I'm like, oh, God, this scene is kind of rough to get through because it really ruins Daredevil as a character. when you watch a show like Arrow, Oliver, like on Arrow, like let's just use the fights in season 4. Yes, the fights in Daredevil season 2 are a lot better, but it's the way they're fighting that's different. That's just insane to think. In the comics, Oliver really isn't one of the better fighters, the top 10 best fighters, but he's a pretty good fighter overall. He's in like, I would put him in the top 20, not in the top 10, but in like number 16 or 19, which is a pretty good number for a Green Arrow. That's how well he fights. Not the best, but pretty good, pretty cool, decent. But Daredevil is in the top 10. But watching Arrow and Daredevil, I have to say, I don't think Daredevil can take on anybody on Arrow. Not even a SCPD officer. That's how weak of a fighter he is. And this is just from season 2. I did not even get into season 3. I didn't even watch season 3 of Daredevil, which some people say is the best. No. Like, who is the main villain of season 3? Is it Bullseye? Is it Kingpin? Yeah, I know Bullseye's in season 3, but who is the main villain? On Arrow, you clearly have a clear main villain. In season 1, you have Merlin, the Dark Archer. Season 2, you have Deathstroke. Season 3, you have Ra's al Ghul or Ra's al Ghul. Season 4, you have Damien Dark. Season 5, you have Prometheus. Season 6 is Ricardo Diaz. Season 7, Amico Queen. You see what I mean? There's far more clear villains. By the end of the season, you understand who the main villain is. But when you get to the last episode of Daredevil, you're wondering, who's the main villain? So in season 1, you know it's Kingpin. But who's the main villain in season 2? Who's the main villain in season 3? You don't know. That's what happens when you have two main villains for a season. Nelson and Karen Page are just awful characters. Felicity Smoke isn't a very well-known character in the comics, so it's okay if she's annoying because she's not, and it's not disrespectful because she's not one of the most known DC characters. She's not on the level of Firestorm or Green Arrow, even though Felicity is actually a Firestorm character in the comics. Now, I wanted to do this video because of the one argument Arrow has always had, and that is the bad writing, where Daryl's writing is just on point, you understand everything. This is the thing that constantly pisses me off because there's no way a Daredevil's writing even makes sense. I think it was episode 7, or there was an episode where you saw Punisher in the prisoner suit and he's on trial, that episode. The judge that is not defending Punisher, sure, I forgot her name, but she says that Frank Castle has only killed 30 people. What the fuck? No. When you actually watch the full season, you can clearly tell this guy's not killing 30 people. It makes no sense. There is no excuse. That is just awful writing. There is no way a guy like Punisher is just killed like 30 people before he got arrested. When you actually watch that, see the episode before he got arrested, you can clearly tell he's not killing 30 people. He's killing more than that. And people say that in Arrow Season 3, when Merlin manipulates the idea into killing Sarah, forcing Team Arrow to go up against the League of Assassins, that plot actually makes sense, because you're putting Merlin, plus Oliver just fought Amir Kudru Slade Wilson. So don't you think he's on Merlin's level from season 1 at the very least? God, people are so stupid these days. Because apparently, yeah, one of the worst arguments is that, oh yeah, Batman from Batman v Superman is killing people. I'm like, you guys just like Oliver killing people on a TV show, on a romantic drama TV show, and yet you guys are complaining about Batman killing him. Does anybody even read comics these days? Batman and Green Arrow don't kill people in the comics. Does anybody even read a single comic? Probably not. That's another complaint with the MCU. They don't really respect the comics at all. Like, the thing is, you don't do Hulk and Black Widow. Yes, you can have them as friends. I'm pretty sure there's many comics where they have to team up, but it makes sense, or it makes sense in that aspect. But it doesn't make sense in the MCU because apparently people like the more funny themes, even though it doesn't work with the type of stories that they're making. Oh look, I'm gonna stop we're gonna have to stop serial killers. Oh yeah, let's just be funny because who cares? Gordon the God Butcher is apparently going to be Thor Love and Thunder, and I'm pretty sure he's going to be a serial killer that can get easily destroyed by an SCP officer. That's sad. One of the biggest things I've heard on Daredevil is how it's a very realistic show. No, it's not even realistic. No, just no. Arrow, even in season 4 with the magic, felt more realistic than Daredevil, in my opinion. I think Elektra is the worst character ever. That is not how you do Elektra on a Daredevil show. Black Canary on Arrow, even when she was mistreated, felt more like the Black Canary from the comics. It's so disrespectful to Elektra as a character because she's a more known character than Black Canary. That's just a fact. A lot of people know Green Arrow. I was actually one of the people that actually knew Green Arrow. But, my God. I don't know what to say. But Elektra was just mistreated. That is not how you do Elektra. You don't make her this businesswoman who wants to kill the Hand. Yes, I like that she has history with the Hand. But why did she leave Daredevil? Yeah, just because he wouldn't kill a man? Are you actually serious? The main reason she left him in the comics is because her heart was broken when her father died. That is why she left him in the first place in the comics, and that makes sense. But it doesn't make sense in a TV show that she would just leave him for no reason, just because he wouldn't kill a man. Are you serious? That is a lazy excuse of making Daredevil and Elektra at least broken up. That is not what you do. It's so disrespectful to the characters. Because when people talk about how, Felicity ruined Arrow, so did Elektra ruin Daredevil. And I hate how people constantly bash on Arrow saying, oh, this is Felicity and friends. Oh, I don't know what's going to happen. Oh yeah, we're going to get a new Black Canary. Oh yeah, we're just going to kick her off the building because we want her to die just because all that's bullshit crap. It's rude on Daredevil as well because you're just going to throw Elektra, put her with Daredevil. Yeah, they weren't even dating. It's, again, disrespectful to the comics. Like, you at the very least put them together for at least a year. I'm pretty sure they were only for like one night. Plus, how many Daredevil villains are on the show? Punisher and Elektra do not count as they are more anti-heroes. Okay, so I know Kingpin. Melvin Potter does make an appearance on the show, and he's Gladiator in the comics. And Bullseye. How many villains has Arrow shown us from Green Arrow, Rogues Gary? Let's see. Count Vertigo. Cupid, China White, Brick, Constantine Drake on Bruce Jonah. He appeared in the first episode of Arrow the Pilot. Merlin, Deathstroke, Deadshot, China White. Did I mention China White? I don't know. Ricardo Diaz, Prometheus, Discord. I'm trying to think of others. I'm still trying to think of others, but I think that's it. Now, can you notice how I said a lot more characters on Green Arrow, Stroke Scary, than I did on Daredevil? Can you see what my meaning now? That is not how you do a Daredevil show. What you need to do is showcase a lot more Daredevil villains. Yeah, it's okay not to show like one or two, but eventually you're gonna have to use them more. So overall, here's my advice for the people who are gonna watch this video. Stop bashing on Arrow. Stop with those bashing on Olicity stuff. Stop with that. Watch Daredevil and see how wrong it actually is, and see what I'm talking about. It's disrespectful. Daredevil is really disrespectful to Daredevil comics, which is sad because Green Arrow is a lot more popular than Daredevil in the comics. And this show is the opposite, because apparently a lot of people just like the fight scenes so much to the point that they didn't care about stories. That's the problem with the MCU. They just have this thing where it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna create the most fun action, but yet it's gonna be so awesome to the point that we're not gonna tell a good story. No, you have to make a good story alongside the action. Like, in my opinion, I actually think season 4 of Arrow actually had a good story with it. I would say that season 4 of Arrow had a better story than the majority of Daredevil. I think one of the major issues with Daredevil was the fact that it's said that it was part of the MCU, but there's no evidence to show that it even is part of the MCU. The thing is, the main reason a lot of people know it's in the MCU is because, oh yeah, the same people who make the MCU is making Daredevil. That is not how you tell that it's part of the MCU. You have to make references to actual things that happen in the MCU. Like, you have to reference the alien invasion in Avengers 1. You can't just no reference, and they say it's part of the MCU. So you have to do it from the very beginning. Do it from the beginning. Oh yeah, so we're just gonna reference the alien invasion, Iron Man, and Captain America. When Captain America was found, when Tony Stark revealed himself to be Iron Man, and when Thor, in the Destroyer armor, arrived, and I think it was Arizona. I forgot. I haven't seen Thor in a long time. But the thing is, you have to make references to the MCU. You can't just say that it's part of the same universe just because, yeah, the same people are making it. It's kind of a lazy excuse. The Reverse Flash in the comics lives in the same universe with people like the Ventriloquist from Batman's Rogue Scary, but because they actually were created by the same company. The Ventriloquist was a member of Batman's Rogue Scary. The Reverse Flash is a member of the Flash Rogue Scary. Batman and the Flash are members of the Justice League. That gives you the idea that, yeah, they live in the same universe. But you can't just say, oh yeah, they live in the same universe just because, oh yeah, Reverse Flash says that he made the Ventriloquist. That's not how you know they live in the same universe. So overall, this video was just to do a rant video on Daredevil, why it's way too overrated. It is not the best superhero TV show ever made. I really did not like Daredevil at all. I find it very kind of disappointing because I was kind of excited for it. But watching Arrow, it really shows how stupid the people are. When people say Endgame's like one of the best films ever, no, Endgame's not the best film ever. It makes no sense. Like the Avengers just do nothing for like 1 hour, and you're like, how is that gonna reach second highest grossing film? Oh yeah, it's because there's more action. Sorry, we have to stay, but we had to suffer an entire hour of nothingness. In my opinion, it's one of the reasons Legends of Tomorrow Season 4 sucks. That season actually gets a lot of hate, and I actually think it deserves it because it really didn't focus on a story. So the first hour of Endgame focused on no story. The MCU is way too overrated. I hate how people hate DC just because there's so much violence and too dark, too brutal. I'm like, God, Marvel has far more characters like that. Like they have the Punisher, they just have more violent characters. Like the Green Goblin, Carnage. So overall, that's my thoughts on Daredevil. I will go ahead and gonna have to give Daredevil a C-. It's not a good show. So, but what do y'all think? I'll see you next time. Goodbye.